Let's talk about where the rookies are ranked. So I know Bijan Robinson is 5th overall for you guys. Let me just make the case for him to be ahead of Saquon Barkley. What do you think about this? So Saquon Barkley.
I considered it.
Last year. Okay, why? I'll go over the numbers, but tell me why.
Because of the uncertainty with Barkley, the fact that he's younger than Barkley, the fact that we've seen these rookies come in and just be absolutely just ridiculously productive.
Yeah.
And so he could be that guy. He's got the potential. He's got the system. He's got clearly the backing of everybody, owner, coach. I can't imagine anybody's going to be upset with Bijan. So would not surprise me by the time we get to August, he's ahead of him.
I can't rule it out. It's certainly a possibility that he'll be better than Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. Because Barkley, what I was going to say is he was RB5 per game last year, but it was kind of a bad year for running backs. You take those same numbers, 17.6 points per game. 2021, he's RB9. 2020, he's RB8. So he'd have to do a little bit better than he did last year, and maybe he could. But you got to think they're going to throw the ball more, right? I don't know if that means good things.
Arthur Smith said that the Falcons are going to throw more.
No, I mean
this
the
year
Giants.
too. I know what you meant.
Okay.
I'm just trying to tell you what Arthur Smith is lying about in his press conference.
So I just thought about that. I don't know how Barkley is affected by Darren Waller, Jalen Hyatt.
To be honest, I could see myself putting Bijan too.
Wow.
Because Eckler, 28.
Sure.
Again, uncertainty. Jonathan Taylor, rookie quarterback. Last year was frustrating. The whole team. So
question is what role in the passing game does Bijan have?
I don't think it's going to be huge, but I wouldn't rule out 40 catches. I don't think he's getting north of 50 in this offense. But you heard Arthur Smith say slot, play him in slot. There was a report about him being the best receiver in Texas, just in terms of his hands. So, but we hear that all the time, and we get fooled by it every single time. Dalvin Cook's going to play more in the slot.
Yeah,
this guy's going to play more.
That never happens for running.
It never happens to the
almost
extent.
Almost never.
To the extent that even McCaffrey, he doesn't play that much, as we've heard. The expectations for. So I don't think that's something you want to buy into. But I do think that it's just makes a ton of sense to put the ball in his hands as much as you possibly can, especially with an experienced quarterback.
If he gets 4 targets per game, that's probably an upgrade over what the running backs had last year for Atlanta. And so that could be part of what Arthur Smith was saying. Maybe he wasn't lying. That's how they throw a little bit more, is by using Bijan there. Between 40 and 50 catches is totally reasonable for Bijan.
Jahmyr Gibbs. Let's talk about him. You guys have him 23rd for Jamie, 25th for Dave. This is PPR. I predict he will be higher than this. Yes. I feel like he's going to move up, specifically in PPR. And you know what? I think we'll get into the Eagles situation in a little bit. I think one of the arguments we're going to have, maybe the Bears situation, depending on how you feel about Foreman versus Herbert, is maybe talent versus veteran role, specifically here with Detroit. Because it's been a pretty underwhelming career, I think, for David Montgomery. He's in a very good situation now. Gibbs, you were just saying someone said they like Gibbs better.
Greg Cosell, yep.
Yeah, and a lot of people do, I think. A lot of people like Gibbs better than Bijan Robinson. So this guy could be super talented. You guys kept him out of your top 20 for now. Do you both have Montgomery? Oh, back-to-back for Jamie. Gibbs, then Montgomery.
Yeah,
Dave,
I saw Montgomery higher.
All right, so let's just talk about this, guys. Gibbs is 23 for Jamie, 25 for you, Dave. How could you see him eventually moving ahead of Miles Sanders, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, guys like that?
Of course.
All right, so lay that situation out for me. Like, why is he 25th now?
Because I am probably ranking him closer to the downside and the floor rather than the upside. Because his upside is insane. If we look at his upside, it's he wipes David Montgomery off the field. He's an every down back for the Lions. They use him. We're talking about 4 targets a game for Bijan. We might see 5 targets per game for Jahmyr Gibbs. And if he's getting 12 to 15 carries on top of that, he's going to be in line to have a huge year if he gets that type of workload. But I'm a little bit worried. They also added Montgomery, and I know they like Montgomery. And they had these roles last year for their running backs where one guy was the hammer and one guy was the lightning. And I think that they've upgraded on the lightning, certainly as far as availability goes. And I think technically they've upgraded on the hammer too. And so both of these guys, I think, are going to end up playing all year long. There'll be games missed here and there. Nobody stays healthy for 17 games. But I think Montgomery has a huge edge on touchdowns. Just looking at the track record of Gibbs at the goal line, both at Alabama and at Georgia Tech, and sharing at Alabama and Georgia Tech, makes me nervous to say, all right, yeah, they're just going to shove it all on his plate. Like, Montgomery's going to have to suck, which really isn't that far of a bridge to walk with Montgomery, because we've seen it before.
We always talk about capital and investment, right? So
this is when we're having our financial discussion.
They've had
good. I need to talk about my 401k.
They've had Montgomery on the roster now for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Right. Couple months or a month and a half. Something had to say, we have to go get Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, not wait for Jahmyr Gibbs. Go get Jahmyr Gibbs. And they said they would have taken him at 6. So they are in love with this kid for whatever reason and whatever role he's going to get. He is going to get the football.
We can guess why they love him.
Why?
Because he's explosive.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is
they can use him in any situation.
This wasn't like, okay, they needed a replacement for a physical running back because that's what Jamal Williams was. And so, look, we all consider and say 17 touchdowns. David Montgomery's not getting that. They're probably not scoring 17 rushing touchdowns again. But do those 17 rushing touchdowns, however they, to the passing game, where they go, because Jared Goff had some bad luck last year. So that's maybe 4 or 5 touchdowns. Let's just say be realistic that ends up if it's just the exact same number. And I know I'm a
little confused. Total touchdowns from the running backs.
Those 17 rushing touchdowns that Jamal Williams have, where do they get dispersed if they're replicated? Right. So
a lot of them, I think, would go to Montgomery.
But I do think, and we've talked about this a lot. How many? Do you remember the number? Was it like 6, 7,
8? The golf stat.
Yes.
8 passes down to the 1 yard
right.
line.
So
only one of them was followed up by a golf touchdown.
Okay, so 8 of those. So let's say 4. Right, just be fair.
Yeah.
4 touchdowns.
4 goes to the passing game.
Oh, okay. So
Right.
we're taking 4 away.
Now we're down
to
taking
13.
all the running back. Oh, but Gibbs could get one of them in the passing.
But that's
game.
what I'm saying.
But
is
so
like,
could Montgomery.
what I'm
He's
saying
got
is
hands.
Montgomery's ceiling is probably 10 touchdowns. I think if you want to say that's a fair number for a guy that's never done that before, to get to 17 touchdowns is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to come in. He's going to take a lot of those rushing downs. DeAndre Swift, like you said, availability. He averaged 5.5 yards per carry. So Gibbs is just as explosive, and you give him the health factor. If he stays on the field, he could be a superstar. So yeah, I the one that I struggle with, like I like Dobbins better just because I think he's going to dominate the carries there, and an offense is going to get better. Rachaad White I struggle with. I have him right now ranked ahead of Gibbs because he's the solo act there, and Cam Akers. Those are the 2 that I struggle with.
What about James Conner?
Connor's behind for me because I just think that team's going to be terrible.
Me too. And I've got it Gibbs, White, Connor, and then Montgomery is ahead of Dobbs for now.
All right, on number 3 running back for you ended up being Achane or Charbonnet or what?
It's
for
rookies.
2023.
Yeah.
It's going to end up being Achane.
This is, by the way, not really going to talk dynasty today. I'll let you guys do that tomorrow. But who's the number 3 rookie running back?
It's Charbonnet.
Charbonnet?
Yeah.
I'll take Achane.
Let me ask you about Achane because
I don't know if he gets a lot of playing time this year. That's the thing, without an injury, which could easily happen.
we're excited about him, but he is small.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're talking about Gibbs being small, and Gibbs, I think,
we didn't even mention that.
weighed
with
15
Gibbs.
more pounds than Achane did.
Yeah.
I think at the combine, something like that. So we'll see how it plays out.
I love that fit for Miami,
But
and I hate the fit for Charbonnet. I hate the crowd in Seattle. The fit for Charbonnet is actually not bad.
Totally.
Right,
But I Kenneth Walker could be blocking him. We just don't know how much he'll be blocking him.
Did they crack your top 40?
Everybody after the top two is in a bad situation. Yeah. Unless Mixon's gone and Chase Brown's the guy. Like that's the one that you can say. Or Kamara's suspended and Kendrick Miller gets an opportunity.
Something could happen to Mostert or Jeff Wilson, and that elevates Achane.
Totally, but you're talking about two guys that have a history there with the coach, and I don't see them completely disappearing.
Did they crack your top 40?
No.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to the wide receivers here. Addison, your favorite?
For 2023, yeah.
And how high did you rank him?
Number 1 overall.
In the 30s.
42, I'm seeing for Jamie.
You're not going to see mine. I haven't updated it yet, but he'll be up there.
All right, 42. Heath has him 28th. That's ahead of Calvin Ridley right now. Now, I know if Heath were here, I have a feeling he'd say, these are my projections. I'll go through the rankings and adjust after that. But right now, it's Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Jordan Addison, Calvin Ridley.
Was that a snot wipe I just said?
No, it was an itch.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Calvin Ridley. No, I'm fine. Calvin Ridley.
He also dropped Jefferson, as I'm looking at.
Did he?
As a receiver ranking.
Jamar Chase ahead of Jefferson right now for Jefferson is not going to be impacted by Addison unless Addison has incredible rookie season. Who else is going to catch passes for them? It's going to be very concentrated. Yeah, that's the guy who I think is going to suffer.
I agree with that too, but he's still going to be there. I had a hard time
keeping him at the third tight end.
Oh, he's not going to be the third tight end.
Yeah, you'll get him out of there by then.
It's hard. Everybody else behind him stinks too.
That's true. That's why I said that. It's going to be a big debate. Who's going to be number 3?
I think Addison belongs in the mid-30s. You'll draft him as a low-end number 3 receiver. But I think he's going to be like 75 catches, 900 yards, and 6 touchdowns his entire career, as long as Jefferson is healthy in Minnesota.
Would you rather have a Steelers receiver or Addison?
I think there's more upside with the Steelers receivers.
Deontay for sure.
Okay. Would you rather have
I thought picking
Michael Pittman or Addison?
Pittman.
I'd rather have Addison.
Okay.
I don't like what's happening in Indy for Pittman and Pierce.
I think we'll see Pittman make more plays down the field.
What's the highest? I'm sorry, I don't want to spend too much time on this. All right, the other wide receivers, any other rookie wide receivers? We're doing when's the mock draft?
Tuesday.
Okay. How many of them are going to get drafted in the first 10 rounds, top 120?
I think Addison does. I think Smith and Jigba does. I think
Zay
Flowers
is gonna,
does,
yes.
and Quentin Johnson, maybe.
So I'm going to give you guys
Just because people are getting, you get excited about new options.
How much? Who leads the Ravens in receiving at wide receiver? I think I asked this I don't know when I asked this, but who's the best wide receiver on the Ravens this year?
Zay.
I would say Zay is the best wide receiver on them, but I have a feeling you're going to see Odell Beckham get 4 starts.
And Bateman?
I think Bateman's the biggest loser of the group.
Yeah.
All right. We didn't do quarterbacks. We did them last. Tight ends? Any tight ends? Any rookie tight ends?
I mean, Kincaid's I think Kincaid will end up being a top 12 tight end just because of where he's playing and what his role will be.
He's not my favorite, though.
Oh, that's interesting.
Laporta's my favorite. Yeah.
So I struggle with Laporta because I love his ability as a pass catcher. I don't think he's that far off. I think he's a little slower than Kincaid, but I don't think he's that far off. But is there a target crunch in Detroit?
Not the first 6 games.
Not the first 6 games? Okay. I can buy into that.
You think he's going to have an impact in the first 6 games of his career? It's pretty rare for a tight end.
I don't think impact. Look, none of these guys are top 12 guys.
You have him 15.
Yeah, none of these guys are top 12 guys. It just takes them too long. The best of the best of the best even struggle.
We've seen it over the past few years.
Yeah, I mean Pitts with the touchdowns certainly struggled.
Yeah, I mean, look,
but that's where I think Kincaid is going to have a lot of success. Just they throw so many touchdowns.
They do, but again, he's got a numbers crunch with Diggs and Davis and still Knox there. I mean, they're not taking Knox off the field. They're going to run more 2 tight end sets. He is not a blocker. Knox is a blocker.
Right. So how does that affect Kincaid? They're using Knox as a blocker.
It impacts.
It means he gets more targets.
This was another guy that depressingly had to take out of my top 2. It was Khalil Shakir. I was excited for his opportunity this year, and I don't think it's going to materialize because he's going to be a big slot is what's going to happen with Kincaid. So I think that's where Kincaid has an opportunity. But again, I just think is he going to get you have really lofty expectations for him?
No, I have really low expectations for most tight ends.
Gotcha.
So I will put the guy because this is basically because Dawson Knox has been a top 12 tight end per game 2 straight years. So I think, and his production's been horrible. He hasn't even gotten to 600 yards, but he's had enough touchdowns to get top 12 per game.
Okay.
I think Kincaid can maybe get to 850
yards.
Players,
though.
No, I don't even think he can get that high.
No, he's a much better player than Knox.
But
a much better receiver than Knox.
Totally much better receiver than Knox.
Yeah.
But again, it's where he's coming from on the field,
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, though. I think it's a good thing. Like, if they're just going to use Knox more as a blocker, and I do think he's coming off the field, Knox, because I think if they're going in 1 tight end sets on 3rd down, I think that's going to be Kincaid. So I think if
they're not using 1 to block, yes.
I think that it just gives their offense so much more flexibility from game to game.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's necessarily any consistency with anybody in Buffalo's offense other than Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs.
That's
Everybody
fine.
else,
That's fine. I don't need
huge
consistency.
question mark from week to week.
Your tight end 8 is not going to be a consistent player.
No.
Tight end 8 overall, not going to be a consistent
he's
player.
not going to be ranked that high.
No, but I'm saying I could see him finishing that high because it's not hard to finish.
He's got to get to probably 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm betting on his ability to get there more than Laporta's, more than Bears, more than Juwan Johnson's, more than David Njoku's. That's all it is.
Right.
It's a gamble on touchdowns. And I do think him being older maybe helps him transition.
What about the lack of experience? 2 years playing, mostly as the number 2 tight end at Utah, after being the number 1 tight end at University of San Diego.
I don't know.
And only 1 year of high school.
It doesn't bother me.
Okay.
It doesn't bother me.
Right.
He's like 40 years old. He's all right. Quarterback.
Hopefully his back holds up too. I think someone's going to take a stab on Kincaid late in every single draft.